Hello and welcome to a new edition of College Football UK. You will see that and hear that I am not Fletch. Fletch is not here today. Um, it is Mrs. Fletcher's birthday, and as the saying goes, behind every good man there is a good woman. So Fletch is out treating his missus, which he should be. Gary's been to Norfolk and back and crossing half of East Anglia, so he's unavailable. So it's just me and Sam. Sam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. Obviously, it's been as probably trickling through still as we talk is all the NFL stuff coming in, and obviously my team, the Rams, are going to be in London this year. So, I'm sure if you listen to the Hurdle the Line, you'll hear probably all about it on there next week, when we go through the whole schedule. But yeah, happy to see that the Rams are back in London since 2019 or 2018. So it's been a good 6 years. Um, but yeah, that's as much as the enjoyment of my life this week.
Oh, fair enough. You're gonna go to that game, I take it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hopefully go. I mean, Wembley tickets have always been over the last few years been quite easy to get tickets, so
Yeah.
I should be able to get tickets to go. Um, but yeah, it'll be good to watch Matthew Stafford in the flesh.
So just to clarify, you won't come on a college football trip, but you will go and watch the Rams. Is that
Well,
where we are?
it's the going to the Dublin bit that I'm not allowed to do.
Oh right, okay. It's the Dublin, not the
It's the
London bit.
Dublin.
It's the
If
Dublin
they
bit.
were playing
Uh,
college football in London, it'd be fine. I could go to it. It's just
right, okay. It's
because
the
it's in
Dublin
Dublin.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, fair enough. I won't push that one. Okay. Um Normally this is where Fletch would hand over to me and say Nick's news. And last week when it was just Gary and Fletch, apologies to the listeners. I was all over everywhere last week, so me and Sam were missing last week. They had Gary's Gazette
Oh wow.
last week. Um and I thought we might get Gary's Gazette again today, but we haven't. So I've had to
Back to
think
me.
on the fly, and I've come up with Sam's supplement.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a little village newspaper. So
What?
with Sam's supplement, we're gonna get some news. So what have you got on the news front? I have got stuff if you haven't got anything, but it's
Um,
fine.
there's a couple of things. I think obviously the probably the big thing is that I've sort of seen, and this might be slightly old news now, but obviously Bill Belichick being in college, he is the talk of the town pretty much every week at the moment. There's multitudes of controversy is probably a strong word, but chatter about his personal life. And I think uh, they've North Carolina have banned his girlfriend from attending football practices.
Yeah, it depends what day you read this because I read that she'd been banned. So then I posted in the group, "Oh, she's been banned." And then the next day
Mm.
I read, "Actually, no, she hasn't been banned." So I
Yeah,
don't actually know whether she's banned or she's not. If
right.
depending on which article you read, she
Yeah.
may or may not. But I noticed she finished third in Miss Maine this week.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh, did pretty well then,
um, so no doubt he will dump her for either second or first very soon.
probably. But yeah, so I think there's been a lot of addressing his personal life with the players. So apparently he's addressed it with the UNC players. What that means, I don't know. Essentially, it just says that it's a personal relationship and she doesn't have anything to do with football. So, by the sounds of it, she's not going to be involved within the football element. She's obviously just going to be in and around a lot with her being his girlfriend, but she will not be having any actual involvement, which is probably a good thing, keeping the personal and work life separate. Um, the other thing that I've seen is Illinois have extended the football coach. I can't pronounce his name. Bielema.
Yeah. They
Um,
did the they did the basketball coach as well at Underwood, I think, at the same time.
yeah,
And
so they've
so
both agreed a 6 year contracts. It's obviously quite a lot. But I always think college football, to be giving people those sorts of long contracts, can be quite dangerous because things change rapidly in college, more so than they do in
yeah.
the NFL. Um, so yeah, so that's the other thing. The other thing that I saw was is it the NCAA Pres Open to President Donald Trump's idea of commission? So the president, Charlie Baker, said Monday he was up for anything when asked about a President Donald Trump proposed commission on collegiate athletics. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that this is a essentially like a government controlled commission board that will then oversee all collegiate sports.
Well, what happened last week, end of last week, was that basically Donald Idiot threatened to sign an executive order, which he's perfectly entitled to do, that was to basically regulate football.
Okay.
And he said that by doing this, he could control portal policy, he could control NIL money, he could control. Basically, it was um, it was a way of the government controlling college sport. And there was a little bit of a kickback, and instead they sort of settled on, well, he's thinking about creating a commission to look into everything that's going on with college football. And the man who he highlighted to run that commission was nobody other than Nick Saban. Now, um, depending on who you ask and depending on whose opinion you take, there is some that believe Nick Saban saw the future coming, and he realized that Alabama, when the deck was stacked in his favor and he was winning championship after championship after championship, he had no issue. But then when NIL started appearing on the horizon, he kind of Nick Saban kind of like saw the writing on the wall and went, you know what, I'm going to get out of Dodge before I don't have any control. And now, lo and behold, Alabama can't compete with some of the big payday places.
Yeah.
And so, had Nick Saban still been there, he probably wouldn't have been getting the success that he did when he was there. So there are those that have the opinion that you know, he got out right at the right time because he saw what was coming. But I don't know whether that makes him the right person to lead a commission. I really don't. But um, something that Fletch and Gary, when they did the news last week, I had an article. I had something that I wanted to talk about, and they missed it. So I feel, seeing as we're talking about Trump and everything, I feel sort of like I need to bring this up now. Um, the Trump administration have been cutting costs across healthcare and everything, and making people all sorts of redundant and cutting off all sorts of funding. And I'm not going to sit here and get into what is right and what is wrong. But what I did notice is the Trump administration cut funding for the research into traumatic head injuries, so basically CTE.
Mhm.
And the CTE budget, or the traumatic head injuries budget, was $8.25 million.
Wow.
5 employees have been put on paid leave, and that money has now disappeared and gone elsewhere. So, if we're talking about not just at the college level, but at the professional, at the very top of the game, when the NFL talk about how they're all behind player safety and how they're going to ban the brotherly shove or the tush push, depending on what you want to call it, because of they don't want to see players injured before players have got injured.
Mhm.
how can you then justify in an environment where we know people sustain heavy injuries? You've now got the administration that I noticed the NFL were all tucked up in bed and visiting Donald Trump last week. He cuts the funding in traumatic head injury research, and nobody bats an eyelid.
Mm,
I'm not saying it pissed me off last week, but I saw that and I was like, why is nobody making a huge deal out of this? It seemed
mhm,
to just like, we'll sweep that under the rug. Don't nobody talk about it. And I was like, that doesn't ride well with me. That you either stick the landing and say, okay, yeah, CTE is important, head injury research is important, and you go with it. And if that's the case, you kick up a fuss when it changes, or you say it doesn't matter. You can't
mm.
have it both ways, sort of thing. So
Yeah,
I
it's
realised
both
that,
like I said, it shouts out to that. Do you actually care about those about your players, sort of thing, doesn't it?
yeah,
It is that sort of you know you'll happily sort of accept, like I say, lie in the bed with him, but as soon as he starts doing things that could really impact the reason why this game exists, really,
yeah,
it's that's where you start questioning
it's
motives.
just it's just one of those. Then there's no blowback, and
Mm,
and I'm not just talking about teams. I'm not just talking about players, the media, everybody. There's nobody shouting from the rooftops, "Hey, this isn't right." This is everyone's just like, we'll go on with our day, and you know,
mm,
hear no evil, see no evil, sort of thing. So that was something that the guys missed last week, and you know, I felt obliged to bring it up this week. Um, Cam Rising's had to retire, the Utah Utes quarterback.
mhm,
He's had to retire on medical grounds due to an ongoing hand injury.
okay,
Um, Played from 2020 to 2024, and in a 2 year period, he had nearly 6,000 yards and over 20 touchdowns. So I think he's talking about getting another opinion, but it looks like it's inevitable that he'll end up retiring. So whether he ends up in coaching, I don't know. Um, Miami Hurricanes linebacker Adarius Hayes was involved in a car accident at the weekend.
she's just
As
been released from hospital, hasn't
Yeah, as I understand it, it doesn't. Nobody's being blamed. There's no drugs or alcohol in the. It looks just to be a vehicle accident.
he? Mm,
Um, but unfortunately, um, three people in the other car that he collided with, um, died, including two children, and the fourth occupant of that other car has sustained serious injuries. Now, like I said, no tickets have been issued. No, no. There's an investigation that's ongoing. So, but it just looks to be um, an unfortunate accident.
mm.
Um,
Which in a way is sort of, I don't want to say it's good to hear in terms, it's good to hear that there wasn't like, because
yeah,
we always talk about that these footballers that cause accidents because of the fact they're either drink driving or drug related driving. If this is just a pure accident, which these things do happen, and they are still obviously unfortunate and very sad, and obviously condolences go out to the family and everything, but it's almost a relief sometimes to see that this isn't just footballers being idiots and doing things
yeah,
they shouldn't. I think it's not. It's a bit of a it's more of a relief because I think that there's this probably a developed stigma around kids with too much money doing stupid stuff.
yeah. Um, Florida's Dijon Johnson faces 4 charges after an arrest for 2 felonies.
So we go from one where it clearly isn't
One where he's innocent and it's an accident to
kid
one
with
who's obviously
yeah
having a big issue.
kid with
Yeah.
stupid kid with money being
Uh,
stupid.
Possession of a firearm and 2 misdemeanors. Yeah, he was pulled over in his car on Friday night, and yeah, um, police searched the vehicle and found marijuana, 8 grams of synthetic marijuana, a black Glock loaded, um, and yeah, so we'll put that in the not very good column.
Yeah, that goes in the kid with too much money doing stupid stuff. Right, like
That seems to be the right column. I think yeah, let's put that in that column. And I want to finish on a good bit of news. I told you this off air, and I could see your smile on your face. Um, Metallica are on a world tour across America at the moment. America is not the world, but it's a world tour. They're just doing their American leg. This week they played Lane Stadium. So, for those that don't know where Lane Stadium is, Sam, do you want to tell us where Lane Stadium is? Who
uh,
who
you
Lane Stadium belongs to?
you might have to say because my mind has gone completely blank.
Okay,
You did mention it, but
yeah. Lane Stadium belongs to Virginia Tech, whose football team come into Enter the Sandman every week.
yeah,
And Metallica stopped off at Lane Stadium this week and played a gig there. 60,000 people were there. And when they played Enter Sandman, which apparently they played out, that was their last song that they
yeah.
played. And they had 60,000 people jumping at the same time. So bad, the shock waves registered on the Richter scale.
Absolutely
I just
brilliant. Mate.
it's absolutely mega, and you can go on YouTube and you can see the end. You know, you just need to type in Virginia Tech entrance, and it's absolutely mega. So for Metallica to turn up and do that in the middle of a tour, fair play to them. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
So
it's the fun thing is obviously it's yeah, causing seismic activity is just
yeah,
unbelievable.
I I vaguely remember a long time ago being at Wembley when Man City were doing the Poznan a lot.
Mm,
It was, in fact, I tell you when it was. It was the FA Cup semi-final that they beat Man United, and the thing had been pre-arranged before the game on all the blogs and everything else on all social media. But you know, when the United team was going to be read out, City fans were going to turn their back and do the Poznan. I was downstairs on the bottom tier of Wembley, which is all concrete and everything else. I could physically feel the stadium shake as one half of the stadium, just all 3 tiers, just started jumping up and down. I thought, oh God, I know loads of concrete's going to come down on me now. It's pretty cool. So, um, yeah.
Oh,
Uh, right. Before we get on to Appalachian State's recruitment, which we said we would talk about. Um,
mhm,
the Navy All American game for 2026, which is, for those that don't know, that's the top kids in high school, usually top 100, top 120, depending on who accepts. They play an East versus West game um, before they all go to college. So effectively, it's like the Shrine Bowl, or that you get for the guys going from college to the NFL. There've been multiple acceptances this week, but big names Danny Lang, Kaviant Bryant, and Jalen Brewster have all accepted their invitation. So they're making headway. And a lot of these names, you just need to go. You can go and search who's accepted and who's been invited. A lot of these names probably won't mean anything to anybody, but these are the guys who, in exactly a year's time, these are the guys we're going to be talking about as these guys have come. When we do our rookie chat next week and we talk about all the rookies that have just come in, these are the guys that are going to be coming in next year. So it's never too early to start, you know, researching names and researching who
Oh
people
yeah,
are.
this is the this is our bread and butter to start looking at who's going to be the next Arch Manning or Bryce Underwood, I suppose, technically for this year.
Yeah. So right. As we had a look, we had a request from a listener who was the lovely guy that I met in Heathrow Airport. And forgive me, I cannot remember the poor man's name. It's been a long time since I met him, and I was minding my, backstory, minding my own business in Heathrow. I just got a Starbucks. I was sat there minding my own business, and there's this guy 10 feet away with an Appalachian State jumper talking to his, I assume was his missus, and I thought, and me being ever the professional, being the pod guy, I'm thinking that'd be really good for our pod. There I am. I should be heading for my flight in a minute, but now we'll crack on and we'll. So I interrupted and I explained who I was and why I wanted a picture with him, and he was very accommodating and what have you. And I turned him onto the pod. Well, he sent us a message and asked us to talk about Appalachian State's transfer portal recruitment. And as Fletcher said, if you get in touch with us and say you want us to talk about something, we will do it. So here we are. Me and you are going to talk about the Appalachian State transfer portal recruitment.
Mhm. And
And
it's been an interesting one.
it has been an interesting one. 36 out, 32 in. Where do you want to start?
So I suppose we probably what's an interesting place to start is the fact that they've just got in a new head coach.
Yeah,
So Dowell Logains has, I hope I've pronounced it right, Dowell Logains. He has joined from South Carolina, I think it was South Carolina, was South Carolina. Um, and originally, well, he was the offensive coordinator at South Carolina. He from 22 to 24, and before that, he was the tight ends coach at Arkansas. Um, be useful remembering these because when we look at some of the players, you can see why I'm mentioning these two. Um,
right.
but yeah, so and he's had quite a well, he's had quite a stellar career in terms of coaching. He was at the Titans from 2008 to 2013. He was at the Browns from 2014 to 2020. Um, Not sure how he's gone. This may not be right because it's then. That's why. What? So this says that from 2014 to 2014, he was the Browns quarterback coach. And from 2014 to 2020, he was also the Browns quarterback coach, but he was also the Bears quarterback coach in 2015 and their offensive coordinator in 16-17 and the offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins in 2018 and 2019-20 he was the offensive coordinator for the Jets. So he seems to be doing two jobs at once throughout his career. So I'm not sure in the terms of which of those are correct. I'm going to assume that the 2014 to 2020 he was not the Browns quarterback coach. And that he had these other jobs. But essentially he's been around, he's been at a fair few teams. He's been anything from quality control coach all the way to offensive coordinator. And now he's got his first, I suppose, official head coaching job in college. And that is obviously the Appalachian State Slack 2 division team, as we I suppose, well, infamously
Unfairly.
call them.
Yeah.
Infamously call them.
Yeah,
But
we
yes.
we we are often referencing the Adam Sandler line from um, the longest yard.
Yes.
So I did a little dive on the Appalachian State Mountaineers this last week. Um, like I said, 36 have left, mostly three star rated, um, 3-star rated players. There's a couple of 2 stars and a thing, and there's one. I think there's one 4-star as well. Nate Johnson has gone to Missouri. Um, 36 out. When you think you, these are obviously rated on a 0 star all the way up to five-star recruit. 3 stars is, for a team like App State, that's probably given about what you're probably aiming for. 4 stars will probably usually get picked off and recruited to another college anyway. So it's not like you should be aiming for 5-star players, because that's not where your market is. The 5-star players end up at the Georgias, the Ohio's, the Oregons, the Texas. So that's not their
The
that's not
Notre
their
Dames.
yeah, the Notre Dame. I was going to leave Notre Dame out, but um so that's their bread and butter sort of thing. So to lose 36 players and recruit 32, you're like, okay, brilliant. But then when you start looking at, of those 32 they've brought in, 28 of them are 3-star recruits. There's a couple of those, the four that aren't 3-star recruits. There's one 2-star, and there's three 0 or no star recruits. I mean, one of them's a punter. I don't know
Yeah.
whether you can give a punter a 3-star a 3-star recruit. Here you go. Here's a punter. Have a 3-star rating.
Those well known 3-star recruit punters.
Yeah, So and then when you say, okay, right, so we brought in 32, they've already got 16 of them enrolled, and 8 of them have signed their letter of intent. So it's not like they're working on empty promises either. They are
Mm.
literally getting players through the door, chaining them to the desk, and not letting them leave.
Yeah, and I mean, you even look at some of the players that they brought in. I think in terms of two that I've obviously had a quick look through, and two that I noticed. Obviously, Davian Dozier from Arkansas was a 4-star high school recruit, and now now he's a college 3-star recruit. I mean, that's still like that's a decent like pickup in that sense. And they've also brought in JJ Cole from Iowa State, who again out of high school was a 4-star recruit, and now he's a 3-star recruit. So they're still great, good, solid players. You've got AJ Swan from LSU, again 4-star at high school. Now he's a 3-star. It's like they're bringing in talent. These aren't players that, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, they're probably not going to be, you know, it's unlikely that any of these are going to be first rounders, but they are, again, thinking about where they are. Obviously in the Sun Belt. They are in the Sun Belt. App State.
Yeah. Yeah. AAC, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So they're a Group 5 team, and they, like you say, they're not expected to have these 5-star recruits, but to even have as many 3-stars as they have is a great position to be in. And I think, like we said, there's plenty of players in there that could put in good performances and potentially boost them up the group of, I suppose, their conference rankings.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you bring up AJ Swan there. You know, he's come from LSU. It's not like LSU are a small team. They're
Mm.
recruiting players from big colleges. Now, on the flip side of that coin, I mean, I don't know LSU's roster from last year that well. Apologies, but AJ Swan was probably what, third, fourth on the depth chart at LSU, and he's chosen to go to App State and play football, or at least fight for the number one role. So
Mhm.
he wants to play. He wants to be there. Because he's probably got aspirations of trying to, at the very least, get to the NFL. Well, he needs to play. He needs to be recognised, and it's all well and good. Go. This is the other thing I don't understand. I'm slightly moving away from App State. You know, you see these rosters at Georgia, at Ohio, at Notre Dame, at Texas that are 90 players deep. Well, an NFL roster is only 50, 53 standard, isn't it? And then you get your
53, yeah.
however many on the day game um, pull-ups from the practice squad. But you get a 53-man roster in the professional game. Colleges are operating on a 90-player roster. How is somebody who is at Georgia, for example, and who's on that 90 roster, if he's not in the top, what, 50, he's barely going to play. So, in the case of someone like AJ Swan, who's come from LSU, he's probably not playing much at LSU and has chosen to come to App State and get some game time. But from an App State point of view, that's a guy who, if he's good enough, yeah, great, but he wants to be there. He want, nothing worse than having a guy who doesn't want to be there. Whether it's football, basketball, whoever, if he doesn't really want to be there, he's not going to put the effort in.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
100%. I think it's it's good that they have got people that, like say, that want to play football, that want to be there to actually play. And I think that's some of the things that these big teams probably do take for granted a lot of the time, because they are looking at having these insanely good rosters. But at the same time, I think one of the things that we sometimes maybe forget about, because obviously we're so focused on the top guys, the top teams, the players that are going to be going into the NFL, call it into the NFL. Majority of these players probably will not make it to the NFL.
no,
And I think a lot of them probably, although have aspirations and will still work hard, very hard, the only way that you're ever going to be noticed is playing football.
yeah,
People are not, teams are not going to, in the NFL or the XFL or the CFL or whichever sort of, way that you end up playing football professionally, teams are not going to look at you if you're not playing ball. So the only way that you can develop tape, the only way that you can develop as a player is playing football. And if you think that you're not going to get that at LSU, why not chance your arm of being at what might be seen as a lesser team? Elevate that team, put that
yeah,
challenge on your back. And I think that's what you're probably seeing a lot of that. And I think this is probably something that maybe a lot more college players maybe have to be thinking about. It's probably one of the things that probably runs through their mind every single year is, do I want to be seen as a alma mater from Georgia and have that sort of tag on my back, or do I want to be shown as being proactive and wanting to play football? And I think
yeah,
that you're starting to see that from some of these players that they're moving into this. And I mean, the fact that you look at their depth chart. I'm just having a quick look at their depth chart of their team at the moment. There's, as it stands, um, the number one player in each position. They have one, two, three, four, five, six. Six of them are new recruits that they've got through the transfer portal. There's one position, the quarterback, which is between, as you mentioned, AJ Swan and JJ Cole. And then on defense, there's only two, but again, one of them is a position where there's two of them are positions where they don't actually have anyone as backup.
yeah,
So, and then you've got the punter and the kicker are also transfers in. So they've done what they've done well in order to bring in the players that they need to, but it's also good to see that there are plenty of players out there that are willing to potentially put their ego aside and claim that they're one of the best, they've been to one of the best schools and actually just show that they want to do what they want to do, and that's play football.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is it's not about it's not about playing to the cameras. It's not about being being on um college game day. It's not about being on ESPN on a Saturday evening. You know, a lot of what these guys rely on is the scouting teams for, you know, NFL regions and what have you, and NFL teams who send their region scouts all over everywhere. It's
Hmm.
them that you need to play to. You know, it's not about the TV audience. It's about, you know, getting an education, play play football, and enjoy yourself. Some of these lads, if they weren't playing football, probably wouldn't be able to afford to come to college anyway.
Mm.
So
And I
but
think it is also worth noting, because I know obviously we give teams like Appalachian State a bit of a tough time. At the moment, Appalachian State have 15 players on active rosters in the NFL.
yeah,
So when we talk about these sort of players that maybe aren't seen as these colleges, they're still attractive colleges. Like, there are still players that are going into the NFL from this, and I mean, two of the Rams I mean, Sean Jolly and Nick Hampton are both ex Appalachian State, and yeah, fair enough. One of them was a claimed free agent, but the other one was drafted in the fifth round. I mean, you look at the players. I mean, they've had someone drafted in the third, who's at the Bills, and Darrington Evans. Um, Seeing if there's anyone else of note. I think a lot of the others are sort of fourth round or below. You've got, I think, from 2020, you have Akeem Davis Gaither at the Cardinals. You've got two from this year that have gone to the free agents that have got the claimed free agents from Amani Marshall and Eli Wilson, who are both at the Browns. So it just shows you that you don't always need to necessarily be at these fancy teams, and actually being at these fancy colleges doesn't always mean that you'll, you know, like I say, if you're ended up being second, third, fourth stringers, you're never going to play. People aren't going to see you. Whereas you go to somewhere like Appalachian State, you go to, the Raging Cajuns and that, you're going to play games
yeah.
and you're going to be seen. So, and obviously, Appalachian State must have quite a attractive pull to it, because people are going there. Like I say, they lost 36, but they've gained 32. So there must be something about it that they've got something about them.
Best best name on the roster, Tyreek Poindexter.
Yeah, I like that guy. Yeah.
Guard slash center, but uh,
Yeah.
Poindexter.
Poindexter.
That's quite a you know.
Duper Coleman. I like that name.
Uh,
Duper.
um. So
But yeah,
I just I was just going through the roster list and the list of players coming in, and it was just like for some reason I've put it by position, and as I was going down the position, I just saw Poindexter. I was like, no, I've misread that, and then I read it again. I was like, yeah, oh no, I haven't.
I do, I do,
Um,
I do quite like their linebacker. Is Brayshawn Littlejohn. That's a good name.
yeah. Um, so their force, the 4-star recruit that they lost. Nate Johnson went to Missouri.
Hmm.
Um, he had he had a 92 rating um, uh, as a transfer prospect. Um, Now, again, we talked about in the likes of, for example, AJ Swan, you know, coming in because he wants to be there and he wants to play. From the from the Appalachian State point of view, you also, as a school, no disrespect, you can't stand in the. I mean, the transporter, you can't really stand in the way anyway. It is what it is. But you know, you can't deny a kid who's obviously a four-star recruit, who's obviously probably belongs at a better level than you're playing at.
Mm.
You know, even without the transporter, it'd be very harsh to keep a guy there who doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like you don't get to plan this ahead of time. You know, the season comes, yeah, I'm entering the transfer portal. That's it. That's the notice you get. The player
Mm.
turning around saying, I'm leaving. You know,
Yeah.
there's no, well, let's come in my office and we'll talk about it. You know, it's just, well, I'm leaving. See you later.
Yeah.
And you've got to react to that. So, you know, they lose a 4-star edge like that, but don't worry, we'll pick up some three star edges, and including Joseph Backhole. So
Yeah.
you
So
know,
like I said,
um,
it's like it's probably we focus, like I said, we focus so much on the big teams and all of the incomings and the 5-star recruits that you know we never really think about the impact that that has on the little on the not the littler teams, but on the teams which are going to struggle to pick up 4 5-star recruits, and that this is where their sort of bread and butter is in these 3-star recruits. That when you think about it, probably a lot of them, the 3-star recruits, make up a lot of you know second, third, fourth stringers in the NFL. Again, the players we don't really think about or know about, but actually are really important to squads. And every now and then, one gets through and breaks out. So just nice to think about it's good to be able to focus on a team that, like Appalachian State, and obviously we've had that request, to be able to give a team like that a bit more coverage and review in terms of how different life is for a team that has to live off 3-star recruits rather than the glamour 5-star recruits.
yeah. Um, they are they going to be your team to win the division this year? Are you
No.
when we do that preview show and we're talking about who we think's gonna win? Are you backing the Mountaineers?
Unfortunately not, because they are in my second team's division in the Sun Belt. So I will be back in the Raging Cajuns.
No.
But I will be very much rooting for them unless they play the Raging Cajuns, in which I won't be. But I don't know what their schedule is like this year. I'm gonna have a quick
Oh,
look
I
at their
can give you
schedule.
I can give you their schedule. I already have it in front of me. Um, they are Charlotte, Lindenwood, Southern Miss, Boise State, Oregon State, Georgia State. I've seen Georgia State. They're proper shit. Like Appalachian State should be able to beat Georgia State. I've seen them. Coastal Carolina, Old Dominion. You're not going to win that one. Oh God, that's a tough. That's tough. That. Oh, Georgia Southern, James Madison, Marshall, and Arkansas State.
Yeah, so that's actually quite a tough schedule.
Yeah,
So, Marshall are not an easy team. Um, James Madison have had a little bit of an upturn. I think they've been quite good. They were quite good last year. Um, Coastal Carolina, I think, are probably one of the better teams in the Sun Belt, so they'll probably be a tough game. Oregon State, Boise. Be interesting to see how Boise do this year with obviously without their
yeah.
god in Genti. Have they retired his number yet? I wonder if they're going to do that.
No, because they're not coached by a Sanders name, so they don't. They follow the rules about when it's acceptable to retire a number. So,
Yeah, well, I mean,
talk, talking of retired numbers, forgive me. I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna go on to. Did you hear the story about off? I watch PFT. I watch Pro Football Talk. Did you hear the story Chris Sims told about Phil Sims's number and Abdul Carter? Did you hear that story?
was this the one where he told? Well, no, it was Taylor, wasn't it? Or was it him? Where he basically
Yeah.
told him that
So
he couldn't retire his
Abdul. Yeah. So Abdul Carter went to Lawrence Taylor and said, "I'd like your number." And Lawrence Taylor said, "Go and get your own number. Make your own name." As
Yeah.
Lawrence Taylor would do. Jog on. See you later.
Mm.
So then apparently he, through his agent Drew Rosenhaus, he got in touch with Phil Simms. Uh, and he said, I'd really like to wear your number 11. Would you retire it? So as Chris Sims told it on PFT, the way it went down is Phil then rang Chris and said, "What do you think?" And Chris was like, "Yeah, if you're happy with it." And Phil's like, "Yeah, I think I might let him. Yeah, I haven't got a problem with it." And then, as Chris tells it, he was minding his own business when then he got a phone call from his sister saying, "What's all this about Dad's going to unretire his number? What have you not talked him out of it?" And Chris went, "No, I think it's a good idea." And she went, "What the hell do you know?" Slams the phone down. And apparently, it was his Phil Sims lost out to his daughter and his wife, who both said, "No, you're not going to do it." And being a man behind two women, he went, "Yeah, all right then." So Chris Sims told it that basically Phil was quite happy to give Abdul Carter his number, but it was the ladies of the Sims household that said no. So
And you can't overrule the women.
no, you can't. No,
They
which
get the
is why
final
Fletch
say.
isn't here today because he's got priorities and he knows what
Yeah,
side of his bread's buttered on.
yeah.
Um, So yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent there, going back
So
to Appalachian State. Yeah, they have got a tough schedule, and you know we all start in the valley of 0-0, as they say.
mhm.
Everyone, I mean, even the Cowboys are at 0-0 right now. They've got
It's not going to last long.
for 1 week they've got a chance. Um, so
Yeah, till they play the Eagles opening week.
I mean, I don't know. Can App State can App State get to 7 wins? Do we think? Is that asking too much?
Let's go back to it again. So
Arkansas State and Marshall are both at home. Georgia Southern's at home. Coastal Carolina's at home, but that will be a tough game. Georgia State is in Atlanta. That's at the baseball stadium. Been there. Um, Oregon State's at home. Southern Miss. I reckon there's one, two, three, four. I reckon there's at least 5 wins there. I reckon there's 5 wins on their schedule. At least.
so Charlotte would be an interesting one. I think they could potentially get a win against Charlotte.
Yeah.
Lindenwood, I think that is a comfortable win. You would like to
I'd
think
be
so.
I'd be more comfortable if they were playing Jenny or Louise, but Charlotte's okay.
Southern Miss.
I reckon they could do, if Charlotte's a maybe, I've got to put Southern Miss as a yes. I think they could do Southern Miss.
They beat Southern Miss last year, 48-38. So last year, 2 years ago. Sorry, last time they played them. Um, so yeah, Southern Miss. Um, we'll say yes. Boise State's probably a no.
Hmm.
Oregon State's probably a no. Georgia State,
That's a
yeah, could beat
yes.
them. Coastal Carolina, I think. Again, it depends on how the team, how well the recruits that they brought in do.
Yeah.
So there's a potential of a win there, but I would
Home
think
game.
after,
You got a potential of being a home game.
yeah,
Yeah.
Old Dominion, they should be Old Dominion.
Mm, go on.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I have got them down as a win there. Yeah.
GA Southern,
Yeah. I've got them
yeah,
winning that.
I'd say then I'd probably say 3 losses. Finish
Do
on
you not
three
reckon?
losses.
I reckon they could do I reckon they could beat James Madison.
Well, he does play for Spurs, I suppose. And to be fair, they did beat them last year 34-20. So yeah, I mean they again, if the recruitment has gone as well as and they play as say we so yeah, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins there that I've got
Yeah.
with a couple that are like on the fences. So there's possibility for a 7 win season. I suppose it
Mm.
just depends on, like I say, I think the big tell will be how well these recruits that they brought in settle into the new coach's style of play and such. And obviously depending on what Charlotte and such have done in their recruitment.
Yeah. I think you look at the.
I mean, Charlotte come into the new season with a brand new head coach as well.
Yeah.
So they've got Tim Albin, who uh, I've never heard of, but he was at Ohio before, and that's not Ohio, the one we know. I don't think. Just gonna have a quick look. It is Ohio Bobcats.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he was hired as head coach to succeed from Biff Poggy, which is a great name. Um, and I think last season, how did Charlotte finish last season? If we can find it. There we go. 2024 season, they finished 5-7, so not particularly great. But like I said, not sure how they've actually recruited this year. So it's possible that they could get a win against Charlotte again. Difficult situation to be put in. Brand new head coach.
There's a lot of sophomore and juniors in in the Appalachian um, State roster as well. There are enough. There's enough seniors and redshirt seniors that they've got some experience,
Mm-hmm.
and but a lot of um, the depth comes from sophomore and juniors, and then there's a decent number of freshmen as well. I think it's going through the players that you've got and the experience that they have playing the game, and I really think that yes, they've had an absolute fantastic transfer portal. The future's bright, and to be fair, we're sitting here saying they could get somewhere between 4 and 7 wins, let's say, edging sort of 5, 6. I don't think that's a bad bad performance.
No,
So
I mean,
I what
I was just
I
having a
was
quick
just
look at Charlotte, and
yeah
they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 transferred new starters down as their player one, their roster. So they've got practically a whole new roster as well. So be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of those are, without going too much into Charlotte because we're talking about App State, but a lot of those are similar, sort of like 3-star recruiters, I think. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's it's certainly a team that'll be interesting to see how they develop, and it's obviously with the requests that we've had, and obviously I think a lot of us will probably be keeping an eye out on how App State do now, and seeing how they perform this season. So as long as they don't go beating Raging Cajuns in any sort of playoff, all for them to go all the way, bar against the Cajuns.
I don't think we're going to see him I don't think we're going to see him in the national playoff championship. No,
You don't think? You don't think they're going to be
no,
the one team?
I don't think they're going to be the one team that make it from the G5. No, I don't, I think the chances of them making it are highly unlikely. Um, No, but that not being said, I wish them all the luck in the world, apart from when they come up against Old Dominion. No offense. So,
Yeah. Have you seen? I suppose obviously just before I suppose because there's not really much else that we're going to cover in this episode. But have you seen the very stupidly early rankings? Have you seen
um,
what they've come out with?
Penn State 1, Clemson 2. Um, I can't remember. I only flicked through it and thought, no, this is ridiculous. But I
Yeah,
noticed it was Penn State and then Clemson. I remember seeing
Penn,
that.
Penn State were number one, Clemson number two, number three is the Longhorns, four is the Bulldogs, Georgia Bulldogs, five Ohio State Buckeyes, LSU is sixth. Notre Dame seven. They have you getting a 14 and 2. Sorry, no, you had a 14-2 record. But yeah, go you seventh. The Ducks are eighth. Alabama 9 and BYU 10.
Sorry, I must have missed where in the top 10 Michigan were. Sorry, I must have missed that.
They have been. I'm still scrolling through. They're not there, and then
Okay.
no. I'm still going.
Florida
Um,
State, were they in the top 10 either?
no, 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 no. Oh,
No.
Michigan found them. They're 20th.
20th.
Yeah,
Wow.
Michigan are 20th. They're actually, funnily enough, below Florida Gators, who are 19th. Not Florida
Well,
State, though.
no, they're even further
Um,
down. See,
I'm,
you don't turn
I'm,
up on the podcast. You can't blame it if we don't, if we run riot and
yeah, there's still
give
no.
you grief.
I've gone all the way to 25. No Florida State.
No, Florida State. No,
No,
no, no.
funny
And
that.
they probably can't field a team with all the players that ran out, ran out the door. So, right. Well, we will leave it there. Um, yeah, it's a shorter pod than normal. There's not a lot going on. We're gonna, like I said, next week we're gonna come to the table with a whole list of the new rookies that have come into the league, the guys that we will still be talking about in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, all the top recruits. We're going to do a show on that next week. Fletch will be back next week. Gary, I assume, is back next week. Um, so, yeah. Um, thank you very much to everyone who's been listening. Um, follow the show on Twitter. Follow the network on Twitter as well, or X, or whatever you have to call it these days, and everything else. Um, and
All
we
the links will be
will.
in the description down below
All the
somewhere
links will be in the
if you're on
description. Then
YouTube.
Fletch is going to do all that. I don't need to
Yeah.
worry about that. I'm just running. I'm just here to run the show. Me and Sam, thank you very much for listening. If you've been watching, then thank you very much. Sam, have a good week. I will
Will do.
catch you next week. To everyone else, enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much. Have a good one.